On this one here we are looking at an A-level question, and it's about Bovis Home Group plc. They're a house builder, and as a result of the recent recession and major cuts in government spending on building projects. Given the high level of change in economic and political environments, is there any point in corporate planning? Justify your answer with reference to the house building or any other organisation that you know. Now this is one of these sort of quite general questions that you can use. The one thing you must know is obviously what goes into a corporate plan, and that's part of the theory of an essay. So a corporate plan will contain a company's corporate objectives, market share, profitability, are they going to enter new markets. It would also contain all their strategies, their marketing budget, their marketing plan, they might do a SWOT analysis. It's a complete methodical plan of action for the future of that firm, and you're going to write it because it provides direction for the firm, it helps you raise money for the business. But the question is it worthwhile writing this document? Well, maybe introduction I like to mention firms, lots of firms preferably, and to talk about the changing economic environment. So then you've got to think, okay, so what's changed? So we're going to go 2008 recession, it's a pretty big change in there. We're going to talk about emerging markets and a recession in Europe. Now there you've got three big economic changes. I'll just blink my eyes for Ollie, just to prove that I complete them. Okay, so we've got this on here. So those are the big changes in terms of the economic environment, so you know what that means. Is there any point in corporate planning? Well, yes, there probably is. Now, this is where the actual whole essay becomes quite tricky, because you would say, well, with all these major changes, particularly with globalisation and emerging markets, because that's what we know about, and particularly with a recession, a firm may want to react to events, but it still may write a big corporate plan. These are big companies after all. So for instance, with Tata JLR, then just think, well, what they would have done is they would have looked at the Chinese market. There's 1.2 billion people living in China, there's X number of millionaires, they might like to buy a prestige car. It's a market that no one's really got into yet. Maybe we can get first mover advantage. Maybe we've got to learn the sort of car that the Chinese people would like and how much they're willing to spend on that car. What's the price elasticity of demand? What's the income elasticity of demand? We would want to know all those factors. So yes, we would assume that we would want to write a corporate plan for them. Now, a really good example, what happened to Cobra in the recession was they grew too quickly, they had to borrow money for venture capitalists, they had to borrow the money at something like 15-16%, wasn't it, £33 million at a very high rate of interest. So eventually that took them under, so they had to be brought out by cause. Now clearly then, if they had a corporate plan with a contingency plan in that corporate plan, what happens if there is a major recession? What are we going to do? How we got enough cash to survive? Then maybe we ought to plan that whole process. I'm quite sure that Audi's had a corporate plan for years and years and years, and it's a big corporate plan, and it's decided that it's going to grow within the UK, and it will go for organic growth and fairly slow growth, but eventually their ideas would catch on. That would have been part of their corporate plan. So I suspect all of these companies would have had corporate plans, and you can mention them. Right, there are sometimes some firms that maybe have a hunch. Okay, so when we get to write the paragraphs, maybe number one, I'll talk about corporate plan. Sounds like JLR, we know a lot about China, income elasticity of demand, the price elasticity of demand, how quickly is the market growing, what's the growth rate, is it going to be a crash in China, what happens if there is a crash in China, what are we going to do about it? Now, when we look at Virgin and maybe Apple, did Steve Jobs always have a corporate plan? I'm sure he probably did, but he also had a bit of a hunch about it. He had a bit of a hunch that the Apple iPhone was going to take off, and small technology and everything else. So it may have also been scientific, maybe he did do some research. However, we certainly know with Virgin, they have a sort of an idea about certain things. It's a venture-branded capital house. Richard Branson has an idea about how he could grow that firm. But then from there, it becomes a process where they are renowned to do loads and loads of research before they enter a new market. So they will do a SWOT analysis, they will look at exactly what the customer wants, how can they satisfy that customer, how quickly is the market growing, what market share do they think they'll be able to get. There'll be loads and loads of questions that they will ask, so they will have a corporate plan. caused Cobra. Okay, Cobra should have had a corporate plan for the 2008 recession because they should have had a contingency plan because what happened when they're running out of cash. So therefore, at the end of the day, you've got to answer this question. Is there any point in corporate planning? Yes, there is, because one, you may be able to raise money with it. Secondly, it gives a direction for the firm and tells everybody what is going on within that particular firm. Thirdly, it's often very, very complicated. If you decide to move into a new market, you're going to have to have a big plan to decide if you're going to contact, joint ventures, the culture of the country. But clearly, writing a corporate plan, maybe by the time you've written it, is going to be a little bit out of date. So there's got to be change within that corporate plan. But you can't really expect big firms, not to have some form of corporate plan. They're almost bound to have a corporate plan. And the fact that the environment is constantly changing and you don't really know what's around the corner doesn't mean that you should not have a corporate plan. And anyway, a good corporate plan should also have a contingency plan if something changes from there. So, I think this is quite a hard question, yeah? But I would say a corporate plan is definitely needed because you're going to have to put down a vision, you might want the changing process, how you're going to invite teams, remember all the managing change process? Well, this is all part of having a good corporate plan. Okay, the next subject we're going to do is mergers. Thank you.